Hey everybody, welcome to the Geek Reloading podcast. I am Adam, and this is my co-host Josh.
Hello.
And this episode, it's going to be fun. It's something that is near and dear to, I think, both of our hearts, and that is multiplayer in video gaming.
Absolutely. Like, really, multiplayer is kind of how Adam and I bonded way back in the day.
Yep.
And, well, I mean, we like video games, so, I mean, we watch each other play a lot, but multiplayer was a lot of fun, even though Adam's better than me. So,
you know, it's just a way that you were able to connect with people, and it's not even like a new thing. Obviously, you have online multiplayer, but even back in the day with NES, you had a lot of cool multiplayer games that made it really fun. And just the idea of playing either whether it's against someone or with somebody, it definitely helps create those relationships, right?
Absolutely. And I've met a lot of cool people that I've never met in real life, like, just because of being able to game with them.
Yeah, and that's what's really unique about gaming when it comes to a social activity, is that that's something that you honestly, it's kind of hard to really do that in a lot of other mediums. You know, I mean, sure, you can like Netflix and chat on the phone. Like, I have a few friends who have their diehard TV shows that they watch together, you know, over the phone or whatnot, or in person. But gaming definitely made it so that there was a certain amount of access that was just easy. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And really, like, games are interactive, and you're able to work together. I mean, it's really satisfying to be able to run in and, like, help your buddy and, like, you know, keep them from dying or pick them up when after they're passed out, like that sort of stuff. Like, it creates that bond a little bit more.
Yeah, I think that the interaction overall really does create like a next level when it comes to building, you know, that relationship. Anyway, so let's go. I always feel bad because I feel like we leave out Atari and Commodore and that kind of crap. But dude, we didn't grow up with that, you know?
Yeah, kind of, but we kind of both picked them up later. But
yeah, like at the end of life is when we remember them. So I feel bad for the really. Yeah, I feel bad for the really, you know, the older generation that may ever listen to this, and they're like, you completely are neglecting this entire console and that entire console. But I feel like from NES on is kind of our length of time that we really remember and that we had the most interaction with, you know?
Yeah, that's definitely when we became gamers. So yeah. So anyways, yeah, but there is a multiplayer, and I'll just kick it right off right now. Like,
sure.
A multiplayer way back in the day in Atari, like, I loved this game. I played it with a friend that had an Atari when I was really little, but then I picked up an Atari and I found this game and I love it. It was either Tank or Combat. I can't remember what it was called, but you're little tanks, and you had a little game pitch, and you ran around, and you could bounce your shots off the walls.
What?
Yeah, it was such a fun game. And so it was like, the angles were a big thing. It was if you could play the angle game, like, you could win. But I love that game, and there was like 8 different like game types. I mean, granted, it was like, you know, straight shooting, like bouncing off the walls, you know. I mean, game types in Atari days were not super changed, but
yeah, for sure,
that kind of stuff. That game was so fun.
That's interesting. It's not the one that was like black, and then it was like wireframes, like the tanks were wireframes that were like green lines, was it?
No. This is like,
that's different. That was an arcade game.
Yeah. That was, I think yeah. But no, this was top down, like you were a little square with a square off to the side for your gun, and then 2 squares on the sides of that to make, yeah, I mean, it was just a box, but
man, yeah, you had to stretch that imagination when it came to the older generation games. Like, there were ones where it's like, oh, that's supposed to be a tank, I guess. It's 4 blocks attached together, but it's a tank in my world.
Yeah, exactly.
That's fair.
That was fun. But seriously, like, that was just, it was solid gameplay. It was fun. I mean, the controls were terrible, but it was just that's what made the game fun.
Sure. So. You know, so like, this one obviously is a classic. We're gonna jump into NES, and that's Contra.
Contra, like, oh man, that game. Like,
Contra was one of those games that it legitimately, it's become so iconic. It's actually seeped into other parts of pop culture. Like you'll see the classic Konami code in like different types of scenarios. Like I know Disney Pixar had the Konami code, I think in Wreck-It Ralph 1 or 2.
Yeah.
And, people use it for like outside of Konami, other game developers have used it or posted it or used it as a graphic or something like that. And it's a classic game.
Oh yeah, and honestly, it was one of those things because it was a new spin on the bullet hell games. You had a lot of the, ships like going up and down,
Yeah.
but like Contra was a side to side scroller. You had a lot more control. You had progression of the movement of the screen. Like that was such a cool concept. I mean, I'm not really into bullet hell because I suck, but like I love Contra, and it was so much fun. And that was one of those games that taught you teamwork.
Yeah, and I think that what made it interesting also is that even though it's technically a bullet hell, I think it's one of the most accessible bullet hells because immediately they didn't even pretend like it was not an option. You always knew the code. Everyone knew the code. And even if you couldn't beat it without the code, people didn't judge you for that,
You know what? I knew the code, but I added like 6 different buttons at the end of it. Like that's why it never worked for me. Well, it worked part of the time. But yeah, like it was pretty accessible. I mean, even especially in the days before the internet and all that.
Yeah, it was a classic word of mouth code that happened in the NES days,
Yeah.
I think that another thing that made it really fun is that it had so many different variations on different types of levels. You had the tunnel levels where you were running towards the center of the screen and you were shooting upward, and it had that weird perspective.
Yeah, that
you had the Yeah, you had the waterfall where you were climbing up the entire waterfall. You had the classic side scroller.
It wasn't just like climbing up the waterfall like all the other like bullet hell games and that kind of stuff. It like you had to jump from platform to platform. So all of a sudden it became even more of a platforming game. And I mean, just such a cool idea. But really, when it came down to it, like you just needed spread. That's
any time you could. It was always spread. That was the only one that you really needed. And nobody wants fire. Fire was garbage. You couldn't aim it, and it wasn't worth it.
Yeah, but I will say I watched a speed run between these two guys. One guy got spread, one guy got laser, and they were dominated. It was awesome.
Well, laser does the most concentrated damage.
Yes.
Spread does the overall damage. So if you have something that's going to take out the overall variables like spread, and then you're going to have something that's going to take out a lot of damage on bosses like laser, that's the best. Like that was the go-to combo between me and my brother or me and my sister. We'd figure that out. Like that was one of the few games we had growing up. So we beat that game so many times.
My thing was I only did spread. I got spread, and any other weapon was to get spread. That's all I could do.
So on like another popular classic game, and this is another one that I think everybody had an experience with, that's Tetris, or even games like Tetris, like Dr. Mario.
Yeah, just like those kind of the puzzle games, but like then they actually put a competitive element in it, which was so much fun. Because I remember talking in school and like, you're flexing those gamer muscles and be like, oh yeah, I could get to level so-and-so. Like,
yeah.
And it was a level playing field. Like Tetris was so solid and such a cool game. It was just awesome.
Yeah. It's a unique game that just stuck, and I mean, they still are making more and more Tetris games. What the most recent one was Tetris 99, where it's 100 different people playing Tetris against each other.
Yeah,
something like that.
That's super cool. And like you're kind of affecting each other now. Like I love that. Like not just getting a Tetris and like being able to dump a bunch on there, but but really, if you look at the gameplay, like it has not changed much at all because it's such a solid game.
Yeah. They've always tried to add other things. Like I remember, Tetris Attack, and they had like Tetris Worlds and stuff. And I've played probably 6 or 7 Tetris games in my life. And honestly, I usually revert back to the classic style where it's just drop and build rather than you have all these power ups or you have these other obstacles and stuff. Like just the classic version is just still super fun.
Yeah. I mean, and that's what I'm the same way as I only just kind of played the normal. and just kind of played against myself. I never really played competitive. I haven't really been a competitive gamer most of my life.
Yeah, I don't think either of us are. I think both of us lean more into the casual play for the story. But at least when you were growing up, since multiplayer co-op games weren't very, they were kind of rare. Most games, when they were multiplayer, they were competitive against each other. You know, you were always fighting against each other. Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, all those ones. You're competing against each other. It wasn't until much later on that you started seeing more co-op games that worked really well together.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Well, but let's just bring up the next one. Like, one of our favorites, both of us, like, we played this so much together and separately, is River City Ransom from the Nintendo. Holy crap, that game was so much fun. It had so many RPG elements that, like, you never really think about. But
yeah, like, you don't understand, like, the stat boosting you're doing when you're going and you're eating at restaurants or you're taking a sauna bath. I remember I used to do that, and it gives you like a stamina and like a wisdom up. But like, it was one of the best, well-balanced, fun games that had so much character for the Nintendo. Like, I mean, you either had a really intense story like Final Fantasy, or you had just super generic beat 'em up like Double Dragon. But River City Ransom kind of had a little bit of a mix of that to an extent in my mind, because you had a little bit of story, you had a lot of fighting, you had a lot of building with RPG elements. It was super fun.
It was really interesting, and there was a lot of progression. You could go different routes and like learn different things to the point where it was just a lot of fun. Like, I think that was one of the first games that I really like learned the concept of grinding. Like,
yeah,
I'm going to go out of this area, come back, kill the guys, go out, come back, kill the guys, just so I can get, what is it? Dragon feet?
Yeah. Dragon feet and stone hands.
Stone hands. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. And then if you wanted to use weapons with that super, powerful 3-hit, it was Grand Slam.
Oh yeah. Grand Slam. And then, the flip, the rolling flip. That was always
Acro Circus.
Yep. Nice. Dude,
I've beaten this game so many times that I have it almost completely memorized. It's ridiculous.
That's so funny. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I will say, on the same concept and the same gameplay style and everything, Scott Pilgrim, like, for Xbox Live, whatever they did, like, that game was River City Ransom skinned and just a little bit updated. I really love that game.
That's also in the same vein as what is it? Fatal Fury. Fatal Fury, Streets of Rage, all of those beat 'em ups, which were way fun. I mean, Double Dragon's the same kind, you know. I mean, those kinds of games, it's a fun way to play because it's you and another person against the world, which, you know, we have this next one coming up. I'm going to skip a little bit, but we also wanted to mention like the 4-player arcade games that were out in the late 80s, early 90s. We're talking like the 4-player X-Men, where you played as either Wolverine, Dazzler, who was it, Cyclops, and Storm?
I want to say there was Colossus as well.
Oh, it was Colossus. It was
I don't think
Wolverine,
it was Storm.
Dazzler, Cyclops, and Colossus.
I can't remember, but that game was so much fun. Like, I dropped a lot of quarters on that. And
I just never felt like I could beat it. I don't think I ever actually beat it as an arcade game. It came out on the Google Play probably 5-6 years ago, and that's when I got it. And when I was able to get unlimited lives, I finally actually went through the story of that. But dude, that one, especially for the time, the graphics were insane.
Yeah, they were. It was awesome because it was a comic book that you were playing, and that was just cool.
Yeah, that was some next level stuff. In
Another
the same
thing on
vein,
that, Simpsons.
Yep, Simpsons.
That was so much fun. Like, I just remember like not hating playing Marge because you had a vacuum that you smack people with. That was so funny.
Yeah. She had some good range, actually.
Yeah, I was really surprised. You know, as a young boy, I had to play Bart Simpson, but still, like, all those characters were fun and worth it.
And, you know, that was a game that it didn't seem like it was really difficult, but if you actually played it some of the later levels were really hard, actually.
Oh,
it was fun.
Oh, yeah. And then
we have Turtles, and they had multiple versions of Turtles. They had like the first one, and then they had Turtles, the Manhattan Project, and they came out with an NES version of the Manhattan Project that actually was a pretty good representation of the arcade version.
Really?
And Yeah, but that one you
I never
obviously you
played
had
that
two
one.
players. It was fun. I played that one a lot. I
Oh,
think
nice.
that those 4-player games, those co-op ones, I think those were the first like foray into showing just how powerful multiplayer can be, because it was almost always stacked with 4 people all the time, you know?
Yeah, but I mean, I remember you and I playing like Ninja Turtles the arcade game, like
Yep.
on Nintendo, and like holy crap, that was so much fun. We played that a lot,
Yep.
and
Yeah,
it was the first time that Donatello wasn't OPAF. Like
that's true.
I like Raph,
but
'cause he hit
Leonardo
hard.
was though. Leonardo was way overpowered because he did that spinning move.
He did, but like Raph almost had the same moves and almost had the same length, but he was actually stronger. He actually did more damage.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I always tried to play Raph because I didn't mind getting a little bit closer and, you know, hitting him with the one jump swing move, whatever.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Interesting.
I like that.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
So I think that the arcade, as it was where the like our older siblings and stuff would experience gaming, right?
Yeah.
But I think that for us specifically, coming into like Sega and Super Nintendo and stuff, that was suddenly when you actually were able to get almost, if not exactly, arcade graphics in home. You know?
Yeah, yeah, but I mean, like, really, like, we weren't really struggling. Like, River City Ransom and those older ones, like, we got enough graphics that we could play the game. And really, it was just playing
That's
the
true.
game that we liked. I mean, granted, I mean, playing the X-Men and, you know, Simpsons even, or, no, it wasn't Simpsons, but, like, that at home was super fun.
Sure, but like later on with the Super Nintendo and the Sega, I think that's when you started seeing arcade games come to home more often, and that reminds me of like Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter.
Yes, yeah. I guess you're right. Like it finally didn't have to downgrade anything. Like they could
Yeah.
just port it over, and yeah, that's true.
And you didn't notice a difference except for you didn't have the joystick and you didn't have like the joystick experience, but the actual graphics and stuff seemed to be very, very comparable, you know?
I know neither of us did it, but like, did you ever have any friends around that had like a giant effing joystick, like just crazy?
Like the fight pad?
Yeah,
No.
stuff like that. Oh man, I had
Back in those days, I didn't see, I heard of like people possibly having it, which is funny because now with like games like Tekken and Street Fighter, fight pads are pretty common.
Yeah. Yeah, and like people swear by it, but those things were just they were terribly made. I had
yeah.
I had a friend that his dad was like into computers and stuff and actually built one, and he loved it, but I thought it was the worst thing ever. But yeah, those times were fun, but I really liked having a controller for these things.
I mean, when it came to combos and stuff for Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter, it made more sense to have the joystick because, you know, you're trying to roll your thumb from down, slightly angled to right to make, you know, a Hadouken or something like that. That
Yeah.
was a lot harder on a D-pad than it was with a joystick because it was built for a joystick and a fight pad. But since I grew up console, it was actually more normal to me to play that way, you know, than it was to play with a joystick style.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like I can see how that would work.
So one more I want to touch on before we start going into our favorite multiplayer, whether it's online or classics or ones that were like just kind of underrated that you should totally check out. This one was obviously mainstream and it's huge now and it was huge then, and that's Mario Kart.
Yeah, you know what? I really did like Mario Kart way back, you know, early on, but man, I cannot play that game anymore.
See, and I'm the opposite. Like the very first like Mario Kart on Super Nintendo, I couldn't get into. I wasn't really interested in it. Mario Kart 64, I didn't grow up with a 64. I got it later, and so I wasn't into that one either. It wasn't until GameCube with like Double Dash and then the Wii that I actually really started liking Mario Kart. So you'd be kind of flipped on that.
That is true. We never really played Mario Kart, so that works.
That's true. It eventually became a really big staple with me and my wife. Like that became a go-to game that we could play together because it felt very evenly matched. Laura's not a huge shooter game player, and so anytime we play shooters, she just kind of checks out if we're playing competitively.
Yeah.
But if it's like Mario Kart, it's most of the time she beats me, and even if I'm like even if I'm trying as hard as I can, she wipes the floor with me. There's no better wording. Like she destroys me on Mario Kart.
Then that's the same with me, but I mean, it's like Mike Tyson punching a baby compared with my wife and I. Like I just cannot play that game anymore.
Here's the thing. Did you ever play any other racing games, like whether it be classic or modern ones, whether it's like Grid or Cruis'n USA or whatever? Did you ever play any games like that? I didn't grow up doing them.
The only game, only racing car game that I really got into and played a shitload was Smuggler's Run.
Smuggler's Run, huh?
Yeah, that was back in the day. I played that a lot. Smuggler's Run and Smuggler's Run 2, but it was kind of like you were delivering stuff and you had to go to certain... Anyways, but it wasn't really...
It's a run that a smuggler does? Is that what it is?
That's pretty accurate. Pretty close.
Call me crazy.
Call you crazy.
I might be reading into this title a little too much, but are you on a smuggler's run and you're a smuggler?
You're smuggling on a run?
Fair.
But yeah, I never really got into racing games. I like the fighting and more action games, so I never really did.
I remember friends trying to get me into Jet Moto, Cruis'n USA, and then later on trying to get me into Need for Speed or all these other games, and none of them ever really stuck. If there's driving elements in a game, I'll play it, but I'm not going outwardly trying to find a Forza. I'm not gonna play a game like that. It just never stuck in my gaming interests.
I just realized I am a complete liar, except because I played one other one so much, and it was that future racing game where you're in almost ships that didn't have wheels. I cannot remember. Wipeout. That's it.
Wipeout.
I played Wipeout for years. I love that game.
So that's the only one. So it wasn't a consistent genre for you either.
Exactly.
Fair. Okay. So we're going to go not just our favorite, we said favorite online multiplayer, but some of mine are way, way before that. We're just some of our favorite multiplayer games. That's what we're going to do.
Yeah, just multiplayer. I mean, we already talked about River City Ransom. That's definitely...
That's true.
Super high on our list, but these are... A lot more of them are closer to now.
That's true. I have a few older ones, but they're not many. So, Josh, you can go ahead and start with the first one.
All right. We both said Borderlands. It's ridiculous. It's funny. It's solid gameplay. The guns were fun to play around with. Mm-hmm. And it was just a good game that you could play together, and you could really balance each other out with different characters. I really like that.
Yeah, Borderlands class system, I think, made it really, really fun because people could kind of customize and tailor their play style, and you could find ones that complement each other really well. One of them that I remember from Borderlands 2, a Gunzerker and a Siren, because the Siren could suspend people while the Gunzerker is shooting them in air with double guns. There was a lot of cool ways that you could kind of buff each other with your perks, and it was really interesting to play. And I don't think I've ever actually gotten full 4-player co-op going on Borderlands with 4 friends, but even what's nice is that it's amazingly fun even with just 2.
Really, I played a lot of Borderlands 2, and a buddy of mine, we would actually open it up to anyone that wanted to jump in, and that was super fun because I actually really liked the tiered enemies system. Once you get someone else in there, they're quite a bit harder. You start seeing a lot more badasses, but when you get 4 in there, they're ultimate badasses everywhere, and that is so much fun.
The scaling on it when it came to difficulty, depending on how many people and what leveling you're at, made it so it was always fun. Even if somebody new was coming in, sure, there was some imbalance issues, but you had people that were carrying you. But it made it so that everybody could still enjoy it, Yeah,
and I mean, really, we got to the point where we were good enough when we had solid enough characters that we wanted the higher difficulties, even if we were just chirping people. That was totally fine with us. We wanted the ultimate badasses because we wanted those better weapons dropping and stuff like that. So
sure,
that I definitely
we're gonna save the second one for last. We gotta hit that one last.
Okay, I'll do the one that I added. Like,
yeah.
So one of my favorite experiences online was Destiny. It dropped in such a weird time of my life. I was into a really depressed state, and a buddy of mine, he was kind of going through some rough times as well, but he was out of state, and we started playing Destiny together online, and honestly, it pulled me out of a super deep depression. But even more than that, like, the people that I met people that I became super good friends with that I've never met in real life because of that game. Like,
yeah,
I wish I could have gotten you to play with us, because
I know I missed that boat.
Yeah, and I love that game. It was solid, it was stable, but like, I met one guy, Timber, if you ever listen to this, shout out. Like, he Sherpa'd us through our first raid, and like, holy crap, he was the coolest, kindest guy, and we played with him for years after. And it was one of those things, like, the online multiplayer it really hit home for me on that one.
Yeah, so that's the one thing about Destiny. I'm a solo player, like, naturally. I don't play with a lot of people most of the time. I co-op with a few people, but it's a rarity. Most of the time I'm playing single player story driven games. And so your experience with Destiny is exactly what Bungie was looking for. They were like, this is a game that you want to get you and two of your best friends, and you want to explore this game together. Whereas me, when I was on weird hours, my friends were on different hours, and I just didn't play it very much. I wasn't able to contribute to that. And I think that that's where you see like a very big rift in if people liked it or not. Yeah. I thought it was a good game for what it was, but also I was playing it single player, burning through the story. And I was like, it's okay. The gameplay mechanics, the guns and everything are spot on because it's Bungie.
Yeah.
But the experience that I had was so different than people who were able to play with, like, consistently play with multiple people, that I can see why, like, I kind of missed the boat, and I didn't luck out with that, you know?
Yeah. And that really was, I don't think I would have loved it as much as I did if it wasn't like that depressive time in my life, and like kind of meeting a friend that I hadn't talked to in years to like be able to play consistently. So,
yeah. And really, I think that Destiny wasn't the first, but it was a very strong example of when you have a community-based game, like when it's done right, a community-based game can be really, really good. I mean, we had World of Warcraft for what, 8 years before that?
Yeah.
And that's like the most community-based game on the planet. And I think that like any MMORPG lives off of, you have to have people that are consistent. You have to have people that are going to show up and they're going to participate. And that's how it makes it a great game. Whereas, you know, it's a completely different experience than if you were experiencing a single player game.
Yeah. I mean, Destiny was really good at giving you the chances and opportunities, even if you weren't a top tier player, to come in and help someone, like, and really like be there, like be that person's savior. Like if they were doing an instance and you just kind of came into the area and all of a sudden you were the tide turner. Like they were just dying over and over trying to complete this thing, couldn't do it, and then all of a sudden you were there and both of you just ripped through it. And those are the kind of things where you met people, you got friends from that kind of situation.
Yeah, that's really cool. So the next one, not the second one below Borderlands. We're saving that for the end. This one is actually one that Josh introduced me to, and I didn't think I was going to like it. It's actually two games made by the same developer. I didn't think I was going to like them. He was adamant, look, let's try playing this game together. I think you're going to like it. And I was like, I don't know. That seems like a lot of work, but okay. And that's Castle Crashers and Battle Block Theater.
Like, I didn't get to play a lot of Battle Block Theater because I didn't have a group of friends around, and it's not fun. I don't even think you can play it single player. But Castle Crashers, the humor in that game was worth all the time and effort.
Absolutely. Yeah. Castle Crashers was just so unique, and this humor was just, it was almost like it was out there in the open with some of the levels where it's like, this is cheesy, we're ridiculous, but then also some of it was like really subtle and it was really funny.
Yeah.
And just the animations, the style, and everything was just so goofy. And dude, it was a hell of a fun time. It was so good.
It was. And maybe sometime we'll have to drop the video that we did of us playing with our buddy Dan. Honestly, that was one of the funniest things I've ever watched. Like, it was crazy. But yeah, we started playing that as a Let's Play, and it never went anywhere. But oh my gosh, Adam's editing skills made that. I literally lived that, and I was laughing my ass off.
Yeah, you know, I'm good at some stuff, but, you know, that just didn't take off because we were so busy at the time. But now we got a podcast, and we can actually do it, and that's pretty impressive.
That is true.
Later on, maybe we'll have to try and figure out Let's Plays along the way, because that does sound like fun. Jump into Castle Crashers again or something.
Go back into that. That's great.
Oh, my gosh, yeah. So, the next one, did you play the next one below it?
I didn't. Nope.
Okay, so this one, like, Xbox, when it came out, was such a weird console just in general, because it came into this competition with PlayStation and Nintendo, and I feel like Microsoft didn't quite know what to do. It had a few solid things, but then it had just some stuff that it might work, it might not work. And I feel like this game and another one that I'm going to mention, it's one of those ones where it's like, this could either do really well or not. And this was like the party game for a bunch of my friends and me. Like, if we were getting together, this certain group of friends, we were always playing this, and that was called Fusion Frenzy.
I don't even know this game, so you're gonna have to explain it a little bit to me.
It's a party game. So picture like Mario Party, right, where there's a bunch of mini games.
Okay.
It's the same kind of thing, except for it's like an Xbox version where it's like you're on a game show, and the game show is like, hey, you're gonna do these different challenges, you and 3 of your friends. Like, one of them is like, you guys are in these big old school like iron orbs, like think gladiators, American gladiators from back in the day, you know, and you're trying to push each other off of a cliff. Or you have these ones where it's like a gun or a tank, and it was Xbox's version of Mario Party essentially, and it was so fun. It was just weird and wacky, but it was ridiculously fun. On that note, another one that they kind of essentially ripped off, if you were talking about Smash Bros back in the day, Xbox had one called Kung Fu Chaos.
I did play that just a little bit, and that was a lot of fun. It was a little bit ridiculous.
Gosh. It was super ridiculous and mildly racist. It was a little bit, you know.
I think it was a little bit more than mildly, because I remember that as well.
Yeah. I mean, but the entire premise was great. You're going through the old school 70s kung fu movies, right? And this director is trying to make a movie, but he doesn't know who's going to star in it. So you have all of these Asian kung fu tropes that you can play as, whether it's like the Chun-Li style girl or a ninja or a sumo. And you were fighting across these movie sets that were they were knockoffs of famous kung fu movies like Enter the Dragon and stuff like that. And the game itself, the gameplay was redonkulous. The character style was ridiculously funny and mildly racist. Yeah, it was still
it was but that was a fun game.
Okay, so that leads us into the next one. Josh, what's the next one?
So the next one is one of my favorites, is Smash Brothers. I mean, granted, I like the first one, but really, like in GameCube, the Melee, oh my gosh, that game I played for years and years, because that was such a solid, perfect game in my mind.
I dare say that I still think is my favorite one, is the GameCube version.
I really like the Switch version, though. Like, honestly, it's just added so much. It has the feel of Melee for me, but it has so many more characters.
Yeah,
I do like that.
Yeah, Smash Bros. Is one of those games that, once again, it's fun if you're an expert, or it's fun if you're a beginner, because there's so many variables that can help benefit a beginner. You know, all the items and everything like that you can get, all the boosts and everything. It can be interesting. And also, I think something that made it set itself apart from everything else was the AI was really good, actually. You could scale it. If you were playing with your little brother, you'd have an easy AI. If you were playing with your best friends and we had one empty spot, you could have a super difficult computer, you know, like that made it so it was really, really versatile when you were playing. And even though it's a fighting game, it didn't really get boring.
Well, and it gave you a lot of different options where, you know, if you were playing against that little brother that was not going to beat you, you could give yourself, you know, less, you know, you could give yourself the
like a few lives and he gets 9 lives.
Yeah, and you could actually have fun with it. Or like if you just wanted to play together, you could play against a bunch of computers. Like
yeah.
And that was super fun as well.
Yeah, and then they added play modes, you know, whether it was teams or it was just different styles. They added more maps. The interaction with the maps was top notch from the beginning.
Oh yeah, that was just a lot of fun. Like not a lot of, I mean, you had way back in Mortal Kombat days where you had like you could do certain things like uppercut someone and they would go out of the ring at the end, like stuff like that. But like that was the actual place was an actual enemy against you. Like you had to.
It was another character that was fighting.
Yeah, and you had to kind of fight against the scenery, which was crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I remember even on the 64 one where you're playing on Star Fox's ship and like a couple of the little ships come up and you can hop on it and fight. But if you don't get off of it, you just fly off and you die. And that's an early on lesson that you learn playing that game, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing is it was just a new form of fighting game. It wasn't, you know, you didn't just drain them down because like there are a lot of those cheap moves in that you can just spam. But there, you know, there's always breakers and stuff like that. But what it was is if you had a character that you could stay on the map, I mean, unless you got super hit really hard, you could win still. You could have been beat right from the get-go and still win, which was such a cool.
You could have 250% and you could still pull it off.
Yeah, and I mean, some of those times where it's like you're up in the 300 range and like anything will knock you off like crazy and you can still win. That was such a cool concept.
Yeah, it was a very unique way to approach damage and lives and everything. And also just honorable mention to one of the best game trailer or game commercials ever, where where the music "Happy Together" is playing and they're hopping through the field.
That was super funny. That was a great. Go and YouTube that. That was a fun.
YouTube the very first Super Smash Bros. Ad, like TV ad. It was awesome. It was great.
It was pretty cool.
Okay, so Josh, you've already mentioned Destiny. This is the last one. This is our favorite. Like, I think that I wouldn't say it's our favorite, but this is probably one of the most impactful multiplayer games ever, and it was definitely for me the most impactful multiplayer game I have played so far. Yes,
this definitely, you know. You didn't play LAN parties for other games, and the game we're talking about is Halo.
Halo, yeah.
Seriously.
This game shaped an entire console generation of how you were going to like play your games with other people. You were like, we used to plan literally our week around, like my friends and I, we'd plan it around that we knew that Thursday nights were Halo night.
Yeah.
We knew that Thursday night, everyone's showing up to my house that I'm renting with 2 other guys. We have 4 TVs and we're going to play Halo.
I still remember in my apartment, like I had 2 roommates that both played Halo a lot with us. And it was literally like we started getting in touch with everyone. And I think you and all your roommates came over. There was a couple times. It was crazy, insane. And oh man, I'm just so glad that apartment was, you know, wrapped in concrete because we were so rowdy. Loud, but it was so much fun.
Yeah, we used to play at my buddy Danny's house, and I shouldn't say house, his apartment. It was him and our other buddy Rupesh, and they were on the top floor of a condo like building. And dude, we were like, I'm old now, so I'm like, get off my lawn level old. I don't like a lot of noise. We have dogs next door that I can't stand, right? And if I had 8 to 16 dudes above me in an apartment yelling and screaming until 2 a.m, I would have murdered every one of us. Because it was just chaos all the time with Halo.
Yeah, I mean, it was insane. And because it was always, you know, you camping bastard. Like,
oh yeah, just vulgarities.
we had one buddy that he taught me the trick of grabbing the sniper rifle and the rocket launcher, going up in the canyon, and there was this little tiny ledge that he could get up in. I could never get up there myself, and I was terrible with a sniper anyways, but holy crap, like I remember it got to the point in those games where it was literally like all of us the first person that would get the rocket launcher would just throw a rocket right up in that spot.
Yep. Just like for safety, it's like I know someone's hiding there.
He might be hiding there, but it's worth the rocket to throw it away.
It's worth the one rocket.
And 9 times out of 10, you would get the kill because he couldn't move out of it. But that was
because once you're there, you were stuck. And I remember like we used to play Capture the Flag. Hang 'em High was my buddy and mine's go to one. And I remember like we would do just human weapons, no Covenant, and I could, from the start of the level, lob a grenade, and I could have the rocket launcher fly towards me.
Oh, I remember seeing... when we played, when you did that, I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
I was so mad.
Yeah, what sucks is that all of us knew that same trick. So it was this, okay, whoever gets to it first kind of mentality. And if you were playing on the opposite side where you couldn't do it, you'd lob a grenade at it just to shoot it out of the way.
Yeah.
But it was just... that game... That shaped how we approached gaming as a community for so many people, because it became a community thing. You'd plan your time around it. You get together, you'd all go out to dinner, or you'd all order pizza. You'd take breaks and you would catch up and stuff. That was like how you caught up with your friends.
Yeah, it was. It was one of those times where you just get together and just play, relax, calm down from life.
Yeah.
Yeah, that really... That was one of those games that has kind of traveled through both of our lives and enriched it a lot.
Yeah, it's been a good one. Even the newer ones are still good. I mean, even you and me went through Halo 4 with Dan, and then I think we went through Halo 5 with Dan as well. I mean, that's the thing. So. We could have done it online, but we chose to do it in person at Dan's house. We actually got all together and we sat down and we played it like on couch co-op again.
And that was really funny. Like that was a lot of fun. And and it was also like early on with the Halo 3, like I barely started to learn to drink a little bit at that time. And I remembered like you'd start drinking a little bit and then you'd get really good because you'd relax and calm down and not get upset. And then you just tank so quickly. But yeah, like
that the magic would wear off.
Yep. And those were those memories that I'll die with. But,
so that's our entire list right there. We've gone from all the way from, you mentioned even Atari, all the way to current games. That's crazy.
Yeah, really. I mean, seriously, we have missed out a lot. There's a lot that we've missed and a lot that we would probably be able to talk about a lot more, but really chat with us. Let us know anything that we missed. We'd like to do a episode or two of stuff that we missed, kind of catching up on a few other things. So if you have something that you want us to talk about, let us know. But we appreciate you listening.
Yeah, reach out to us on our social media or on geekreloading@gmail.com. And yeah, so I looked at it the other day. This is going to be old news, hopefully, by the time that this podcast drops. But we have almost 200 people that have liked our Facebook page. So we need to do a giveaway. So
wow, that is awesome.
Yeah, that's crazy, right?
That is crazy.
So,
absolutely crazy.
Everybody who's listening, you're awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
And yeah, thanks for listening. We will we'll catch you on the next episode.
Thanks.
Geek Reloading Podcast with Adam and Josh. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Have a question? Email us at geekreloading@gmail.com. Theme song titled Rocket by Kevin MacLeod. You can rate, review, and subscribe to our podcast on your preferred podcast service.